If you make $3,000 a month, you should be putting $600 of it into savings. If you're not doing that right now, let me tell something that might be hard to hear. You're not broke. You just don't have a system. Today, I'm going to show you the exact budgeting framework that some of the wealthiest self-made people quietly use to build their fortunes. And the best part? It works whether you take home $3,000 a month, $5,000, or $10,000. No spreadsheets with 40 categories. No tracking every single coffee. Just 3 simple numbers. Let's be honest for a second. Most people don't fail at budgeting because they're bad with money. They fail because their budget is too complicated to follow for more than 2 weeks. I'm talking about those massive spreadsheets with 40 different categories, apps that ask you to manually log every single purchase, or even worse, rules that assume you have 0 debt and a 6-figure income completely disconnected from reality. That's why one particular method has quietly become the gold standard recommendation among certified financial planners. It's called the 50-30-20 rule. It's simple enough to remember without checking your phone every 5 minutes. It's flexible enough to survive a bad month where your car breaks down. And, as we're about to prove with real math, it works at almost any income level. Let's break it down piece by piece. At its core, the 50-30-20 rule splits your after-tax income, that's the money that actually hits your bank account, into 3 distinct buckets. Bucket number 1, 50% for needs. This is the non-negotiable stuff. Rent or your mortgage payment, groceries so you don't starve, utilities like electricity and water, your car payment or public transportation costs, health insurance, and the minimum payment on your debts. If you have to pay it to survive and function in society, it lives here. Bucket number 2, 30% for wants. This is the fun stuff. Dining out at your favorite restaurant, your Netflix, Spotify, and Disney Plus subscriptions, that weekend trip you've been planning, hobbies, gym memberships, and yes, that new pair of sneakers you've been eyeing. These are the things that make life enjoyable, but aren't strictly essential for survival. Bucket number 3, 20% for savings and debt repayment. This is the future you bucket. Building your emergency fund so you don't panic if you lose your job, contributing to your retirement accounts like a 401k or an IRA, paying extra toward your credit cards or student loans to get rid of them faster, and, of course, investing in index funds or other assets. The power of this rule isn't in who invented it. It was popularized by Senator Elizabeth Warren. The power is in how little willpower it requires. You aren't tracking 40 categories. You're tracking 3. Let's make this concrete. Theories are nice, but math is what actually changes lives. Here's what the 50-30-20 rule looks like at 3 different monthly incomes. We're going to use real numbers. Scenario 1, $3,000 a month take-home pay. That's roughly $36,000 a year after taxes. 50% for needs gives you exactly $1,500. That has to cover your rent, your groceries, your utilities, and your transportation. 30% for wants gives you $900. That's your entertainment, eating out, and personal spending. 20% for savings gives you $600. Now, I'll be the first to admit, $1,500 for all needs is incredibly tight if you live in a high-cost city like New York or San Francisco. In fact, it's probably impossible. Don't worry, we're going to talk about how to adapt the rule in just a few minutes. But for many people in Middle America, this ratio is actually quite realistic. Scenario 2, $5,000 a month take-home pay. That's $60,000 a year after taxes. 50% for needs, $2,500. 30% for wants, $1,500. 20% for savings, $1,000. This is where the rule starts to shine. $1,000 a month in savings is $12,000 a year. At that rate, you can fully fund a 3 to 6 month emergency fund in just about 12 months, while still having room for retirement contributions and a nice dinner out on the weekends. This is the sweet spot for most professionals. Scenario 3, $10,000 a month take-home pay. That's $120,000 a year after taxes. 50% for needs, $5,000. 30% for wants, $3,000. 20% for savings, $2,000. At this higher income level, something interesting happens. Your needs don't scale up as fast as your income does. You might still live in a nice apartment, but you probably don't need to spend $5,000 on rent and groceries. This is why many financially independent people actually flip this ratio. They push their savings rate to 30, 40, or even 50%. They use the excess to build wealth at an exponential rate. Before you start dividing your paycheck tomorrow, let's talk about the 3 mistakes that quietly break this system for most people. Avoiding these is the difference between succeeding and quitting after 2 weeks. Mistake number 1, confusing wants with needs. Look, I get it. We all rationalize our spending. A $60 a month gym membership might feel essential for your health, but if you haven't stepped foot in that gym in 3 months, it's a want. Be brutally honest with yourself when you're categorizing. Remember, this budget only works if the numbers are real. Mistake number 2, forgetting that minimum debt payments are needs, but extra payments are savings. This is a big one. Your minimum credit card payment, that's a need. It goes in the 50% bucket. However, any extra cash you throw on top of that minimum to pay down the principal faster, that actually belongs in your 20% savings and debt payoff bucket. It's paying your future self. Mistake number 3, applying the rule before checking if it fits your city. This is the most common failure point. If you live somewhere where rent alone eats 45% of your income, forcing a strict 50% needs cap is a recipe for failure. You'll stress out, you'll feel guilty for going over, and you'll quit. The rule is a guide, not a jail sentence. The 50-30-20 rule is a starting template, not a law written in stone. If it doesn't fit your life, you adjust it. Here's how to do that without breaking the spirit of the system. If you live in a high cost of living area, try a 60-20-20 split instead. 60% for needs, 20% for wants, and, this is the critical part, still keep 20% for savings. The goal is to protect that 20% savings floor, even if needs take a bigger slice of the pie. If you have aggressive debt, or you want to retire early, do the opposite. Flip the wants and savings buckets. Go 50-20-30, 50% needs, 20% wants, and 30% savings. Live a little leaner for 2 years, crush your debt, and then enjoy the freedom later. If you have a variable income like freelancers or commission-based workers, don't apply this to a single unpredictable paycheck. Instead, calculate your average income over the last 3 months and apply the percentages to that average. This smooths out the volatility and gives you a stable target to aim for. The number that should never move is that 20% floor. If you protect your savings rate, you protect your future. Everything else can flex. The 50-30-20 rule won't make you a millionaire overnight. Let's be realistic. No budget does that. But it is the difference between guessing with your money and having a system. And systems over years are what compound into real financial freedom. You don't need to be a math genius. You don't need to track every penny. You just need to respect the 3 buckets. If this helped you see your finances more clearly, please consider subscribing. Every single week, we break down one system just like this. Systems that actual financially independent people use to build their lives, explained in plain English with real numbers you can actually use. And right now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's your current savings percentage? Is it 20%? Is it 5%? Or is it 0%? Let's have an honest conversation down there. I read every single one, and your comment might just become the topic of our next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.